There is a number in your bank account right now. You probably know roughly what it is. You trust it. You make decisions based on it. And if you went looking for it, really looking, traced the electrons, opened the servers, followed every wire, you would not find it, not anywhere. The number exists because an institution wrote it down, and because you believe the institution, and because the institution believes you believe it. And somewhere in that loop of mutual faith is the entire architecture of modern civilization. Money is one of the oldest tricks humanity has ever played on itself. The remarkable part is that nobody questions it. Let's start with the story you were probably told in school, because it's wrong. The textbook version goes like this. Primitive humans bartered, trading arrows for bread, goats for pottery, until the inconvenience got unbearable, and someone clever invented coins to smooth things over. Logical, tidy, almost entirely fictional. Anthropologists have spent over a century looking for a society that actually ran on barter as its primary economy. They haven't found one, not a single documented example of a pre-monetary civilization organized around strangers swapping goods on the spot. What they found instead in the oldest written records humanity has produced is debt. The Mesopotamian temple ledgers from roughly 3000 BCE don't record coin transactions. They record obligations. Who received grain from the temple storehouse? Who owed silver back at harvest? The temple was a clearinghouse for promises, and the clay tablet was the ledger. Money didn't replace barter. Money emerged from the need to remember who owed what to whom. It was, from the very beginning, a story written down. And once you're writing stories about who owes whom, you need rules. Hammurabi's code, etched into a stone pillar around 1754 BCE, is frequently cited as early law. What gets mentioned less often is how much of it is debt law. Interest rate caps, rules on debt bondage, conditions under which a debtor's family could be sold into service. Debt was serious enough to require royal management, which is why rulers across ancient Mesopotamia periodically issued what scholars call clean slate decrees, total debt cancellation, a reset button pressed whenever accumulated obligations threatened to collapse the social order. The word for this in Sumerian, amargi, also means freedom. That etymology is not subtle. Coins arrived later, around 600 BCE, in Lydia, in what is now Western Turkey. And here's what's interesting about why states loved them. Not because coins made commerce easier, though they did, but because coins made taxation legible and soldiers payable. You mint coins stamped with the king's face, you require taxes paid in those coins, and suddenly everyone is scrambling to acquire them. Money as a policy instrument is nearly as old as money itself. Rome ran this system for centuries, then discovered a tempting shortcut. When the treasury ran short, the solution was to quietly reduce the silver content of coins while keeping their face value the same. More coins, less metal. The denarius went from nearly pure silver under Augustus to about 5% silver by the 3rd century. Prices rose. People noticed. Rome had invented inflation, more or less by accident, and discovered that you cannot cheat a ledger forever. Meanwhile, in Song Dynasty China around 1000 CE, merchants were depositing heavy copper coins with merchants' associations and receiving paper receipts in exchange. The receipts started circulating as payment. The government noticed, formalized it, and began issuing the first true government-backed paper currency. When Marco Polo encountered this system in the 13th century, he described it with barely concealed bewilderment. The emperor, he wrote, makes people accept paper as if it were gold. He had identified the mechanism precisely. He just didn't realize it worked back home too, only with different paper. The Renaissance made the ledger elegant. Double-entry bookkeeping, codified by Luca Pacioli in 1494, gave every transaction 2 entries, a debit and a credit, a system that forced books to balance. The Medici ran a banking empire across Europe on this logic, and English goldsmiths, storing deposits for merchants in the 1600s, noticed that depositors rarely all came back at once, so they started issuing more receipts than they had gold. The receipt became the banknote. The banknote became money. The goldsmith became a bank. And the bank was, structurally, betting that everyone's trust wouldn't evaporate simultaneously. That bet was eventually formalized into nations. For a long time, the bet had a floor. Currencies were tied to gold, so in theory, the paper had a fixed referent in physical reality. Then, in August 1971, the United States ended gold convertibility, severing that last tangible anchor. Every major currency since has been, technically, a promise with no collateral beyond institutional credibility. Your bank balance isn't backed by gold. It's backed by the shared agreement that it counts. Here is the deeper thing, the one underneath the history. Across every language, the vocabulary of debt and the vocabulary of morality are the same. We owe apologies. We pay our dues. Debts are forgiven. Sin is described as a debt in the Lord's Prayer. This is not a coincidence. Debt is a moral claim dressed in arithmetic. And whose debts get forgiven has always, in every era, depended on who holds power. Ancient kings canceled peasant debts to prevent revolt. Modern governments have bailed out financial institutions while ordinary borrowers stayed buried. The clean slate was always selective. That's not a bug in the system. It is the system. So here you are. The number is still in your account. It still isn't anywhere you could find. Tomorrow morning, millions of people will wake up and act on numbers exactly like yours. And because they all agree to, the economy will open for business. The belief doesn't require understanding the history. It never has. The trick works precisely because nobody questions it. You just did. The sources and further reading are linked in the description.